The massive space station floated silently above Earth, its silver walls gleaming in the sunlight. Inside the biggest studio room, dozens of people rushed around with cameras, lights, and strange alien equipment. The air buzzed with excitement and nervous energy. This was the day that would change everything for human movies. Lisa Martinez stood in front of a mirror in her small dressing room. She took a deep breath and looked at herself. Her dark hair was perfectly styled, and her makeup made her look like a movie star from the old days. But her hands were shaking slightly. Today was the biggest day of her career, and she knew it. For 20 years, Lisa had been making movies on Earth. She had won every award that humans could give to an actress. People loved her, critics praised her, and other actors looked up to her. But this was different. This was her first movie with aliens from other planets. The movie was called Stellar Horizons. It was supposed to be the most expensive movie ever made, with actors and crew members from 12 different planets. Earth had been invited to join the Galactic Entertainment Consortium only 5 years ago. Most alien worlds still thought humans were too young and stupid to make real art. Lisa heard a knock on her door. "Come in," she said softly. Jake Morrison walked into the room. He was tall and had kind eyes that showed his 45 years of life experience. Jake had been making movies even longer than Lisa. He was famous across the galaxy now, not just on Earth. Alien movie fans loved his serious, intense performances. "How are you feeling?" Jake asked, sitting down in a chair next to her. "Scared," Lisa said honestly. "What if I mess this up? What if I prove them right about humans not being good enough?" Jake smiled and put his hand on her shoulder. "You're the best actress I know, human or alien. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise." Lisa nodded and tried to smile back. She had worked with Jake on 3 movies before. He was always calm and professional, but she also knew he cared deeply about his work and the people he worked with. "Have you met the director yet?" Lisa asked. Jake's smile faded a little. "Zektar? Yeah, I met him yesterday. He's interesting." "What do you mean?" "Just be ready for anything," Jake said carefully. Before Lisa could ask more questions, another knock came at the door. A young human assistant peeked in. "Ms. Martinez? Mr. Morrison? Director Zektar wants to see you on set now." Lisa and Jake walked through the long hallways of the space station. Through the windows, they could see Earth spinning slowly below them. It looked so beautiful and peaceful from up here. Lisa tried to remember that feeling of peace. The main studio was huge, bigger than any movie set Lisa had ever seen. Alien. Technology made it possible to create perfect copies of any planet or spaceship. Today, it looked like the inside of a spaceship from the future. In the center of it all stood Director Zektar. He was a Vorthan, which meant he looked somewhat like a tall, thin human, but his skin was pale blue and his eyes were completely black. He wore expensive clothes that seemed to change colors as he moved. Around him stood other aliens from the crew, all watching the humans with curious eyes. "Ah, the Earth performers," Zektar said in perfect English, though his voice had a strange musical quality. "I hope you are ready to work hard today. This is not like your simple Earth productions." Lisa felt her stomach tighten, but she smiled, politely. "We're excited to be here, Director. Thank you for this opportunity." Zektar looked her up and down like he was judging a piece of art he might buy. "Yes, well, we shall see if Earth actors can handle real artistic work. I have seen some of your films. They are primitive, but they have a certain raw energy." Jake stepped forward slightly. Lisa noticed his jaw was tight. "We're here to do our best work," he said simply. "Of course you are," Zektar said with a smile that didn't reach his black eyes. "Now let me explain today's scene. Lisa, you play Captain Sarah Wells, a human who has just discovered that her home planet has been destroyed. Jake, you are Commander Ryan Shaw, her closest friend who must tell her that her family is dead. It is a scene that requires great emotional depth." Lisa nodded. She had read the script many times. It was a powerful scene and she felt ready for it. "The key," Zektar continued, "is subtlety. I know humans tend to overact. You show too much emotion, too loudly. Real art requires control and intelligence. I hope you can manage this." Several of the alien crew members made sounds that might have been laughter. Lisa felt her face get hot, but she kept her expression calm. "We understand," she said. "Good. Places, everyone." The next hour was spent setting up the cameras and lights. Lisa noticed that all the important jobs were held by aliens. The humans on the crew seemed to be doing mostly simple tasks like carrying equipment or bringing coffee. As they prepared for the scene, Lisa heard some of the alien crew members talking to each other in their own languages. Even though she couldn't understand the words, their tone made it clear they were making jokes. She caught a few words in English mixed in: primitive, emotional, typical humans. Jake moved closer to her during a break in filming. "Ignore them," he said quietly. "Just focus on the work." "I'm trying," Lisa whispered back. "But this feels different from what I expected." "I know. Just remember why we're here. This movie could change everything for human actors. We're not just doing this for ourselves." Lisa nodded. Jake was right. If this movie was successful, it would open doors for human actors across the galaxy. But if they failed, it might be years before humans got another chance like this. "Quiet on set," Zektar called out. "We are ready to begin. Remember, Lisa, subtle emotion. Not the big dramatic style you humans usually prefer. This is sophisticated art." Lisa took her position on the set. The cameras rolled. The lights focused on her face. Around her, dozens of aliens and humans watched silently. This was her moment. Everything she had worked for her entire career had led to this day. She closed her eyes for a second, found the emotion inside herself, and began to act. Lisa opened her eyes and looked straight into the camera. The bright lights made everything else disappear into darkness. She was no longer Lisa Martinez, the actress. She was Captain Sarah Wells, a woman who had just lost everything she had ever loved. Her voice came out soft and broken. "How many?" she asked Jake's character. "How many people died on New Terra?" Jake looked at her with pain in his eyes. He had become Commander Ryan Shaw completely. "All of them, Sarah. The entire colony, 12 million people." Lisa's face changed slowly. First confusion, then understanding, then a grief so deep it seemed to come from her soul. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Her hands started to shake, but she tried to control them. Her breathing became shallow and quick. "My sister," she whispered. "My sister was there with her children. My parents retired there last year." Her voice broke on the last word. The human crew members watching from the sides felt their own eyes fill with tears. Even some of the alien technicians stopped what they were doing to watch. Lisa's performance was so real, so full of genuine human pain, that it touched something deep inside everyone who saw it. Jake reached out and touched her shoulder gently. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Lisa pulled away from him and turned around. Her whole body seemed to collapse inward. She put her hands over her face and made a sound that was half sob, half scream. It was the sound of a heartbreaking. "Cut." Director Zektar's voice rang out across the set. Lisa took a deep breath and wiped her eyes. She looked around at the crew. Many of the humans were wiping away tears too. Even Jake looked moved by her performance. But Director Zektar was frowning. He walked over to Lisa with slow, measured steps. The alien crew members followed behind him like students following. "Teacher, that was exactly what I was afraid of," Zektar said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Typical human overacting. Too much emotion, too obvious, too primitive." Lisa felt like she had been slapped. What do you mean?" "You showed everything," Zektar said, gesturing with his long blue hands. "Real grief, real art requires subtlety, control, intelligence. What you just did was like a child throwing a tantrum." Some of the alien crew members made those laughing sounds again. A few nodded, their heads in agreement with their director. "In advanced civilizations," Zektar continued, "we understand that true emotion comes from what is not shown, not from these wild displays. Humans always do this. You feel something, so you must show it with your whole body, your whole face. It is embarrassing. Lisa's face turned red. She looked around the set and saw that all eyes were on her. The human crew members looked angry and embarrassed. The alien crew members looked amused or disgusted. I was trying to show the characters pain, Lisa said quietly. Pain, yes, but like an animal shows pain, Zektar said, loud and obvious and without thought. Let me show you what real acting looks like. Zektar moved to where Lisa had been standing. He positioned himself in front of the cameras and closed his black eyes. When he opened them again, his face was completely calm and controlled. He spoke the same lines that Jake had spoken about the colony being destroyed. His delivery was perfect. Every word was pronounced clearly. His voice had exactly the right tone. His face showed just a tiny bit of sadness, but mostly remained unchanged. It was technically flawless. You see, Zektar said to Lisa. This is how advanced beings express emotion, with control, with intelligence, not with this wild human crying and screaming. Lisa felt her hands start to shake again, but this time from anger and humiliation, not from acting. I understand, she said quietly. Good. Now we will. Do the scene again. This time try to remember that you are not in one of your primitive Earth films. This is real galactic cinema. Show some dignity. The cameras rolled again. Lisa tried to do what Zektar wanted. She kept her face calm and controlled. She spoke, her lines clearly and quietly. But something was wrong. The emotion was gone. The truth was gone. She sounded like she was reading a shopping list. Cut, Zektar called out again. Better, but still not right. You are thinking like a human instead of like an artist. Again. They did the scene again, and again, and again. Each time Zektar found something wrong. Lisa was too emotional. Then she was not emotional enough. Her voice was too loud. Then it was too quiet. Her eyes showed too much. Then they showed nothing at all. By the 10th take, Lisa was exhausted and confused. She no longer knew what the director wanted from her. Every time she tried something different, he criticized her more harshly. Perhaps, Zektar said after the 15th take, humans are simply not capable of this level of artistic work. Your species is very young, after all, very primitive. Maybe we should have used computer graphics instead of real human actors. The alien crew members laughed louder this time. One of them, a tall creature with green skin, spoke up in accented English. Director Zektar, perhaps the human female needs more time to evolve artistically. More laughter from the aliens. The human crew members looked at the floor or at each other with angry, helpless expressions. Lisa felt tears starting to form in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of shame and frustration, not artistic expression. She had given the performance of her life in that first take, and this alien had made her feel like a failure. Let's try once more, Zektar said with fake patience. Lisa, dear, try to remember that we are not making a film for children or primitive Earth audiences. This will be shown across the galaxy to advanced civilizations. Try to rise to their level. Jake Morrison had been standing quietly to the side during all of this. Lisa could see him in her peripheral vision, and she noticed that his hands were clenched into fists. His jaw was tight, and his eyes were focused on Zektar with an intensity that made her nervous. As they prepared for the 16th take, Lisa caught Jake's eye. He gave her a small nod that seemed to say, "Keep going," and, "I'm here." It helped a little, but she still felt lost and humiliated. The scene began again. Lisa tried to find the middle ground between human emotion and alien control, but she could feel herself failing. She could feel the eyes of everyone watching her, judging her, finding her lacking. When Zektar called, "Cut," for the 16th time, Lisa knew that something inside her had broken. She had never failed this badly at anything in her entire career. She had never felt so small and worthless. And that was when Jake Morrison finally reached his breaking point. News of the artistic duel spread across the galaxy, faster than light-speed communication could carry it. Within hours, representatives from every major alien species were connected to the space station through video feeds. Ships changed course to come watch in person. This was history being made. Lisa sat in her dressing room, staring at Jake in disbelief. "Do you understand what you just did?" she asked. "If you lose this, it's not just your career that's over. It's all of us. Every human actor, director, writer in the galaxy." Jake was sitting calmly in a chair, but Lisa could see the tension in his shoulders. "I know," he said quietly. "Then why?" Lisa asked. "Why risk everything?" Jake looked at her with those serious eyes that had made him famous across the stars. "Because some things are more important than careers. He didn't just insult your acting, Lisa. He insulted what it means to be human." Outside in the main studio, alien technicians were setting up a special stage for the duel. The artistic duel was an ancient Vorthan tradition, older than space travel. It was designed to settle arguments about art and honor when words were not enough. The rules were simple, but brutal. Each participant had to create a piece of art that showed the deepest truth of their species. It could be acting, music, poetry, dance, or any form of expression. The audience would judge which performance better captured the essence of artistic truth. The winner would be proven right in their artistic vision. The loser would be publicly shamed and forced to admit they were wrong about art itself. Director Zektar was in his own preparation room, surrounded by his alien assistants. They were reviewing thousands of years of Vorthan artistic tradition, preparing him for the performance of his life. No Vorthan had ever lost an artistic duel to another species. "The human is insane," one of Zektar's assistants said. "He has no understanding of proper artistic form. That is exactly why he will lose," Zektar replied confidently. "Humans create from chaos and emotion. We create from order and intelligence. There is no comparison." But privately, Zektar was worried. Something about Jake Morrison's calm confidence bothered him. The human had not seemed afraid when he issued the challenge. He had seemed certain. Back in Lisa's dressing room, Jake was meditating. He sat perfectly still with his eyes closed, breathing slowly and deeply. Lisa had seen him do this before important scenes, but never for this long. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "Home," Jake said without opening his eyes. "I'm thinking about Earth, about humanity, about every person who ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of something bigger." "Are you scared?" "Terrified," Jake admitted. "But that's okay. Fear makes us human. Fear makes us real." A knock came at the door. It was time. The main studio had been transformed into something that looked like an ancient amphitheater. Hundreds of seats had been installed for the alien dignitaries who had come to watch. Cameras were positioned to broadcast the event to billions of beings across the galaxy. Lisa took her seat in the front row with the other human crew members. Around them sat aliens of every shape and size imaginable. Some looked almost human. Others were so different that Lisa could not even figure out which end was their head. All of them were watching with intense curiosity. Most had never seen a human before today. None of them had ever seen an artistic duel between species. In the center of the amphitheater was a simple circular stage with bright lights focused on it. There were no props, no costumes, no instruments, just empty space where art would either triumph or die. An elderly Vorthan official stood up to explain the rules to the audience. "The challenger will perform first," he announced in a voice that was translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "Then the challenged party will respond. The audience will judge by applause which performance better captures artistic truth." Jake walked onto the stage first. He looked small under the bright lights, surrounded by hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. He wore simple black clothes and no makeup. He looked like what he was, just a human being, far from home, about to risk everything. "I choose acting," he said simply. His voice carried clearly through the amphitheater's sound system. Zektar nodded from his seat. "I also choose acting." The elderly official raised his hand. "The duel begins now." Jake stood in the center of the stage and closed his eyes. The amphitheater became completely silent. Even the sound of breathing seemed to disappear. When Jake opened his eyes and began to speak, his voice was different. Deeper, more resonant. It seemed to come from somewhere beyond his body. "We are the species that looked at the darkness between stars and called it beautiful," he began. "We are the children of a small blue world who dared to dream of touching infinity." As he spoke, Jake began to move around the stage, not with the careful, controlled movements that aliens associated with proper performance, but with the natural, flowing gestures of someone telling a story from their heart. "They tell us we are primitive because we feel too much," he continued. "Because we cry when we are sad, laugh when we are happy, rage when we see injustice. They say this makes us weak." Jake's voice grew stronger, more passionate. Lisa could see aliens in the audience leaning forward, drawn in despite themselves. "But I say our emotions make us strong. Our feelings are not flaws to be hidden. They are the fire that drives us to greatness. When we love completely. When we create with our whole souls. When we stand up for what is right, we risk everything." Jake paused in the center of the stage and looked directly at Zektar. "You asked what makes humans different from other species. This is what makes us different. We do not create art to impress others with our technical skill. We create art to share the truth of what it feels like to be alive." Jake's performance continued for 10 more minutes. He spoke about human history, about struggles and triumphs, about the courage it took to leave Earth and venture into the unknown galaxy. He became every human who had ever lived, dreamed, suffered, and hoped. By the time he finished, there was not a dry eye among the human audience members. But more importantly, Lisa could see that many of the aliens were also moved. Some were wiping away what looked like tears. Others were making sounds that seemed like emotional responses. When Jake bowed and left the stage, the applause from the human section was thunderous, but there was also scattered applause from the alien sections, which was almost unheard of in formal Vorthon ceremonies. Now it was Zektar's turn. The director walked onto the stage with perfect posture and graceful movements. Everything about his appearance was flawless. His costume was elegant, his makeup was precise, his hair was perfectly styled. When he began to perform, his technique was absolutely perfect. Every word was pronounced correctly. Every gesture was exactly right according to classical Vorthon artistic tradition. His voice control was magnificent. His timing was flawless. He spoke about the importance of discipline in art, about the beauty of technical perfection, about the superiority of mind over emotion. It was a masterful display of everything the Vorthon educational system could produce. But something was missing. Lisa realized what it was as she watched the alien audience. They were impressed with Zektar's skill, but they were not moved by it. They appreciated his technique, but they did not feel his truth. Zektar had given them a perfect performance that said nothing about what it meant to be alive. When he finished, the applause from the Vorthon section was polite and proper. But it lacked the emotional power that had followed Jake's performance. Now came the moment of judgment. The elderly official stood up to announce the results. "By the ancient laws of artistic truth," he said solemnly, "the winner of this duel will be decided by the response of all gathered witnesses." He raised his hand. "All who believe the Vorthon performance showed greater artistic truth, applaud now." The sound was respectable but not overwhelming. Perhaps half the alien audience applauded, mostly Vorthons and their closest allies. "All who believe the human performance showed greater artistic truth, applaud now." The sound that followed was like thunder, not just from the human section, but from aliens throughout the amphitheater. Species that had never agreed on anything were applauding together for Jake Morrison's performance. Zektar's face went completely white. He stared at the applauding crowd like he could not believe what he was seeing. The elderly official's voice cut through the noise. "By the judgment of witnesses from across the galaxy, the human Jake Morrison is declared winner of this artistic duel." The silence that followed the announcement was deafening. Director Zektar stood frozen on the stage. his perfect blue face showing an emotion that Vorthons rarely displayed. Complete shock. Around the amphitheater, alien representatives whispered to each other in dozens of different languages. Jake Morrison walked back onto the stage. He did not look triumphant or proud. He looked tired but determined. This was not about winning or losing anymore. This was about what came next. The elderly, Vorthon official cleared his throat and spoke in his formal voice. According to the ancient laws of artistic duel, the defeated party must now fulfill their obligations to the victor. Zektar slowly walked to the center of the stage. His movements were no longer graceful and controlled. He looked like a man, walking to his own execution. The entire galaxy was watching through the cameras, waiting to see what would happen next. Zektar began, then stopped. He had never had to do this before. No Vorthon director had ever lost an artistic duel to anyone, let alone a human. Jake stepped closer to him. "You know what you have to do," he said quietly, but the microphones picked up every word. Zektar took a deep breath. "I, Director Zektar of Vorthon Prime, acknowledge that I was wrong about human artistic capability." His voice cracked slightly on the words. "The human performance showed greater artistic truth than my own." The human crew members in the audience started to cheer, but Jake held up his hand for silence. He was not finished yet. "And?" Jake prompted. Zektar's shoulders slumped. "And I surrender creative control of the film Stellar Horizons to the human cast and crew, effective immediately." The cheering from the human section could not be contained this time. But Jake still was not smiling. He had one more thing to say. "There's something else," Jake announced to the assembled crowd. "I want to make it clear that this victory does not belong to me alone. It belongs to every human who has ever been told they are not good enough, not smart enough, not civilized enough to matter in this galaxy." He turned to face the cameras that were broadcasting to billions of beings across space. "Today proved that human emotion is not a weakness. It is our greatest strength. When we feel deeply, we create deeply. When we love completely, we inspire others to do the same." Jake looked back at Zektar, who was still standing there looking lost and defeated. "But this is not about humans being better than other species. This is about all species learning from each other instead of putting each other down." He extended his hand to the Vorthon director. "I want you to stay and help us finish this film. Not as the boss, but as a partner. You know things about filmmaking that we do not know. We can learn from each other." Zektar stared at Jake's outstretched hand like it was some kind of alien artifact he could not understand. You want me to stay? After everything I said about humans?" "People make mistakes," Jake said simply. "What matters is what they do after they realize they were wrong." Slowly, carefully, Zektar reached out and shook Jake's hand. It was the first time in galactic history that a Vorthon had publicly accepted help from a species they considered inferior. The cameras captured every moment of it. Over the next 6 months, something amazing happened on the space station. With Misa, Jake Morrison as the new director and Lisa Martinez as his lead actress, the film Stellar Horizons became a true collaboration between species. Zektar, humbled but not destroyed by his defeat, proved to be an excellent technical advisor. He taught the human crew about advanced alien filmmaking techniques. In return, the humans taught him about emotional storytelling and natural performance. Lisa's performance in the finished film was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. She brought the same raw emotional power that had moved everyone in that first take, but now it was supported by the best technical production values that alien technology could provide. The film told the story of a human colony that was destroyed, but it became much more than that. It became a story about hope surviving tragedy, about different species working together, about the power of emotion to heal wounds and build bridges. When Stellar Horizons was released across the galaxy, it broke every box office record that had ever been set. More importantly, it changed how alien species thought about humans and how humans thought about themselves. Human actors began receiving offers from film studios on dozens of different worlds, not as curiosities or second-class performers, but as equals whose unique perspective was valued and respected. Director Zektar, rather than being destroyed by his public defeat, found that working with humans had made his own art more powerful. His next film, a collaboration with human writers, won the highest artistic honor that the Galactic Entertainment Consortium could give. But the most important change happened in a small conference room on the space station, 3 weeks after the duel. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy had gathered for an emergency meeting. "We need to discuss the Earth situation," announced the representative from the Centauri Republic, a tall alien with silver skin and golden eyes. "The humans have proven themselves to be far more capable than we initially assessed." "Agreed," said the representative from the Andromedan Federation. "Perhaps it is time to reconsider their status in the galactic community." Lisa and Jake were invited to attend this meeting as representatives of Earth. They sat at a table with beings who controlled the fate of entire star systems, but they no longer felt intimidated. They had proven that humans belonged here. "We propose," said the Centauri representative, "that Earth be invited to host the first Interspecies Arts Festival, a gathering where all species can share their artistic traditions and learn from each other." Jake looked at Lisa and saw his own amazement reflected in her eyes. 6 months ago, humans had been barely tolerated in galactic society. Now they were being asked to lead it in a new direction. "We would be honored," Lisa said, speaking for all of humanity. 2 years later, the Interspecies Arts Festival opened on Earth. Alien artists from across the galaxy came to learn from human emotional expression. While humans learned from alien technical mastery and philosophical depth, Jake Morrison was named the festival's first director. Lisa Martinez became the first human to win the Galactic Arts Council's Lifetime Achievement Award. And director Zektar, now a close friend and collaborator, presented the award to her personally. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came during the festival's opening ceremony. A young human girl from New York performed a simple song she had written about friendship between the stars. As she sang, beings from dozens of different worlds joined in, each adding their own cultural musical traditions to her melody. In the audience, Jake and Lisa watched with tears in their eyes as the barriers between species dissolved in the face of shared artistic expression. "Do you think we really changed anything?" Lisa whispered to Jake. Jake smiled and pointed to the stage where the young girl was now surrounded by alien musicians, all of them creating something beautiful together. "Look around," he said. "The galaxy will never be the same." And he was right. From that day forward, human emotion was no longer seen as a primitive weakness. It was recognized as a gift that could touch hearts across the vast emptiness of space, bringing understanding and connection to beings who had thought they were too different to ever truly communicate. The universe had learned that sometimes the most powerful art comes not from technical perfection, but from the courage to show your heart to the stars. The moment Jake Morrison won the artistic duel, everything changed. Not just on the space station, but across the entire galaxy. News networks on hundreds of worlds were broadcasting the same impossible story. A human had defeated a Vorthan master in their own ancient art form. Director Zektar stood on the stage looking like his whole world had collapsed. His blue skin had turned an even paler shade, and his black eyes seemed lost and confused. He had built his entire career on the belief that Vorthans were the greatest artists in the galaxy. Now a human had proven him wrong in front of billions of witnesses. Jake walked over to him slowly. The amphitheater was completely silent except for the soft humming of the recording equipment. Every being in the galaxy seemed to be holding their breath, waiting to see what the human would do to his defeated opponent. "According to your laws," Jake said quietly, "you have to give me control of this movie." Zektar nodded miserably. "Yes. The film is yours now. And you have to apologize publicly for what you said about humans." "Yes." Zektar's voice was barely a whisper. Jake looked around at all the cameras, at all the alien faces watching him. This was his moment of complete victory. He could humiliate Zektar the way the director had humiliated Lisa. He could make him suffer the way he had made her suffer. Instead, Jake did something that surprised everyone, including himself. "I want you to stay and help us finish the movie," he said. Zektar's mouth fell open. "What?" "You know things about making movies that we don't know," Jake explained. "Your technical knowledge is amazing. We could learn from each other. But I insulted your species. I called you primitive animals." "You were wrong," Jake said simply. "But people can change their minds when they learn new things. The question is, are you willing to learn?" For a long moment, Zektar just stared at Jake. Then, slowly, he nodded. I would be honored to work with you, as an equal." The human crew members started cheering. Even some of the alien crew members joined in. Lisa felt tears running down her face, but this time they were tears of joy and relief. Over the next 4 months, something magical happened on the space station. The movie Stellar Horizons became the most successful collaboration between humans and aliens that anyone had ever seen. Jake took over as director, but he made sure everyone's voice was heard. He asked Lisa to help him with the emotional scenes, teaching other actors how to find real feelings in their performances. He asked Zektar to handle the technical aspects, using alien technology to create visual effects that had never been possible before. Most importantly, he changed the story itself. Instead of being just about a human colony that was destroyed, it became about different species learning to work together after tragedy. It became about hope, friendship, and the power of understanding between different kinds of beings. Lisa's performance in the finished movie was breathtaking. She brought all the raw emotion that had moved everyone in that first take, but now it was supported by the best filmmaking techniques that alien science could provide. When her character grieved for her lost family, audiences across the galaxy cried with her. When she found hope again, they felt hope too. The movie was released 6 months after the artistic duel. It broke every box office record in galactic history. More importantly, it changed how people thought about humans and about each other. Before Stellar Horizons, most aliens saw humans as interesting but inferior. After the movie, human actors started getting job offers from studios on dozens of different worlds. Human directors were invited to make films for alien audiences. Human writers were asked to create stories that could touch hearts across species lines. But the biggest change came in a meeting room on the space station 1 month after the movie's release. Representatives from every major alien government had gathered for an emergency conference about Earth's status in galactic society. "We need to admit that we were wrong about humans," said Commander Veltar from the Andromedan Council. She was a tall, graceful being with silver skin and large, purple eyes. "They have proven themselves to be far more capable than we believed." "Agreed," said General Thok from the Centauri Republic. He looked like a giant bear with blue fur and intelligent golden eyes. "Perhaps it is time to give Earth full membership in the galactic community." Lisa and Jake were invited to represent humanity at this meeting. They sat at a table with beings who controlled entire star systems, but they no longer felt out of place. They had earned their seat at this table. "We have a proposal," said Commander Veltar. "We want Earth to host the first interspecies arts festival, a gathering where all our civilizations can share their art and learn from each other." Jake almost fell out of his chair. "You want us to host a festival for the entire galaxy?" "Your species has shown us something we had forgotten," General Thok explained. "Art is not about technical perfection. It is about truth, about emotion, about connecting with others across the darkness of space." Lisa looked at Jake and saw her own amazement in his eyes. "We would be honored to host such a festival." "Excellent," said Commander Veltar. "We will begin planning immediately." 1 year later, the first Interspecies Arts Festival opened in 2009, New York City. Beings from across the galaxy came to Earth to participate. The festival lasted for 2 weeks and featured art forms that no one had ever imagined. There were Andromedan crystal sculptures that sang when touched by sunlight. There were Centauri dancers who could move in ways that defied gravity. There were Vorthon musicians who created symphonies using mathematics and light. But the biggest crowds always gathered around the human performances. Not because they were technically perfect, but because they were emotionally real. When a human poet read about missing home, aliens who had traveled across the galaxy to be there understood exactly what she meant. When human musicians played songs about love and loss, beings who had never experienced those emotions began to understand what they were missing. Jake was chosen as the festival's director. Lisa became the first human ever to win the galaxy's highest artistic honor, and Zektar, who had become their close friend and collaborator, presented the award to her with genuine pride and affection. But the moment that meant the most to both of them came on the festival's final night. A group of children from 12 different species performed a song together on the main stage. They had written it together during the festival, each adding words in their own language about friendship and understanding. As they sang, Jake and Lisa stood in the wings watching. Around them, crew members from dozens of different worlds worked together to make the show perfect. Above them, ships from across the galaxy hung in Earth's sky, their crews watching the performance on screens. "Do you think we really changed anything?" Lisa asked quietly. Jake smiled and pointed to the stage where the children were now holding hands, their different shapes and colors creating a beautiful pattern under the lights. "Look at them," he said. "A year ago, most of these species barely talked to each other. Now their children are making art together." On stage, the children finished their song. The audience, made up of thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, rose to their feet in thunderous applause. In that moment, all the barriers between species seemed to disappear. Lisa wiped tears from her eyes as she watched. "We did it, didn't we? We really did change everything." "No," Jake said softly. "We just reminded everyone of something they had forgotten. That no matter how different we look or where we come from, we all have hearts that can be touched by beauty and truth." As the curtain fell on the festival's final performance, Jake and Lisa knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Human emotion was no longer seen as a weakness or a sign of being primitive. It was recognized as a gift that could bring understanding and connection to beings separated by vast distances and countless differences. The stars no longer seemed cold and empty. They were filled with the voices of friends, singing together across the infinite darkness of space